Hello everyone and welcome to my shop. So let's see, today we're going to work on the refurbing that Deluxe Fresh Air heater that I picked up in a trade, and see if we can't get that ready to go inside that Chevrolet right there. So stay tuned. This is the fresh air heater I'm going to be eventually installing in the Chevy. When I got it, of course, it was put together, and the first thing I did was test the core. This is the heater core that came with it, to see if it would hold water, and of course it didn't. I tried soldering because it was leaking mainly out of here. So I tried soldering, and I put a lot of flux in there, and I really put the solder to it, and it slowed it down, but it would still drip. So I went through one of our popular aftermarket providers, and I've purchased a brand spanking new core I'm gonna put in this thing after I clean him up some. Now, the electric motor looks like it's still 6 volt. It hasn't been apart. It's riveted there instead of bolted. Well, it may be bolted on the other side of that squirrel cage, but the wiring harness looks original. And I've got this, and I've picked it up somewhere trading around, and I'm going to test it to see if it's 6 or 12 volt, and I'm going to test this to see if it works. So let's see what we got. Alright, got a 12 volt battery hooked up here. I've got the hot lead connected onto the wire coming off the engine to where the electric motor, to where all I need to do is ground this the negative lead. Let's see what we get. This is 12 volts. That would be considered full speed, and well, that 6 volt that may be a 12 volt electric motor. I don't know. I'm gonna test this other electric motor I've got and see what it does. Alright, I've got the had to put some spade lugs in the ends here. Now I've got this other electric motor here ready to go. I'm gonna hold it still because it felt like it had a little bit of torque to it, and he's spinning pretty good. Now what we're going to do, we're going to test to see if it's reversible. So right now I'm going to take the positive well, that's not going to work, to negative. Alright, and then this is the positive going to it. And let's do it this way, so I can disconnect it real quick if I have to. Now I should spin the other way. Let's see what it does. And that's what it's doing. So it's reversible. Spun that way. All right, good deal. once that neutralizer dries, it gives a good, it's almost like a primer. It makes all the surface rust that's left over from my preparation, it makes it paintable. And the paint will adhere to it just as if I had taken it all the way down to just bare metal. Pretty good stuff. All right, I got some parts in today. Here's my new heater core for that fresh air heater I'm going to rebuild. I'll do a little bit on that later. And here is, I'm going with a bypass valve. The way this works, instead of just shutting off the feed going to the heater, I want to circulate it, so it'll come in right here through the from the water pump, and in the off position it'll come up and back, so it'll be sort of a loop going back to the thermostat housing. Then when you open it up, it opens these both up to go out. It'll come into the heater core. The reason why I decided to go with this is that fresh air heater right now, they are well, let me show you on the GMC. You see these vents right here? This is the fresh air input into the fresh air heater or deluxe heater. And at this time, I don't have any doors that'll open and close the heater. So what that means is there'll be fresh air going through that core as I go down the road. And if I've got hot water circulating through it, well, that'll mean some heat. And when it's warm outside, 80, 90 degrees, I don't want any heat. So I'm going to try this recirc water valve to try to shut off water, any hot water getting to this when it's in the off position. Alright, we're getting them to dry now. There's about 3 coats of it. That's hammered brown Rust-Oleum, and that's the same color I painted the dash and interior. So it should match pretty good. Now, it's not a professional job by no means, but it looks a whole lot better than it did before. Alright, there's a test fit. I'm going to think about maybe putting it about in that spot right there. You can see right here. Oh, gotta be careful. Well, I can't really move it, but there's the water on and off lever there, and the cable will come this way. The 2 outputs come over to these 2 holes right here is where the deluxe heater core comes out, of course, and these 2 hoses here will go there. I think I got enough room to get around it to get down there and do my service, so I'm thinking that may be the spot for it. Alright, before I put a coat of black paint on that electric motor, I'm wanting to point out a nice thing I discovered. And if you look hard right there, you'll see it says 12V. And then here's the part numbers over here. Looks like that electric motor is already 12 volts. So how lucky is that? Huh. Sometimes it's nice to be lucky for a change. Alright, got the parts laid out, waiting for the electric motor to dry before I put this thing together. These are the gaskets that that'll connect it to the tow board, on the side tow board, and also the motor going through the firewall. And this neat little thing, I guess I'll have to glue him. We'll go there. Now I just realized I'm gonna need to get me a that's on the other side of this, and I just don't want to disturb it right now, but the lever that goes from heat to defrost and heat, and there's a sticky that goes on that shows how to turn it on and off. So anyway, moving along. Alright, as is always the case when you're dealing with aftermarket parts, you run into a situation. If you look at the gap between where the screw goes through the half and secures it to the heater, you see that big gap right there, okay? Now keep that gap. That's at least that's really about 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch. Alright, now look at this new aftermarket. You're talking about a 1/4 inch. Now see them screw heads, how far they're out? I'm gonna have to space them, or if I drive them in, you know, like do a gorilla crank, that'll just put holes in my brand new core. So anyway, that's just some of the issues you run into with aftermarket parts. Okay, actually there's two different types of screws. There's a very coarse thread, and then there's a finer thread. And the finer thread is what holds the halves together, and the coarse thread is what will hold the core into the tins, sheet metal. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and screw some of them down, get that secured. I'm just going to have to space out that the two screws that hold on this side at the top anyway. It's just the way it works sometimes. You know, we got plenty of room on the other sides of that core to the plate. It's just the side that secures to the this main side, and it bolts right smack dab up. So if you see in there's plenty of clearance from that screw. Probably can't see down there, but it goes in between. So those two screws are fine. It's just these two that are going to be my problem. Now I went through my stash of screws, and the shortest screws I have, they're straight slot, and they're still basically the same size as what come out. So anyway, I'm just going to have to space them, and we're carrying on. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start them, just start them so I can keep it aligned while I tighten down the halves. So that's not the one I wanted. See at the bottom. Okay. take them in tight. That's it. That's all I want to do for now. I got them started. That's what I can. That's what I care about right now. So the uppers doesn't matter. It's just these two right here that's the problem. All right, I'll make them up with some kind of a large spacer. I don't know yet. We'll see. Yeah. No problemo on that. Or this one. Well, the holes are all staying somewhat lined up. That's good. Get them halves together. Broke my own cardinal rule. Don't cinch anything down till you get everything fitted. Now let's try it. Actually, I took this thing apart quite a while ago. I had to kind of feel my way back around, putting it back together. Take him back out. No gaskets. So then again, you don't need exact air anyway. I mean, if the air escapes when it blows around, that's just going to be heat going where you may want it. So I guess they didn't deem it necessary to totally seal it up. Missing the screw. Let's see what I got in my stash here, and right there's one. Cool beans. Down, then we'll come up with a spacer for down there at the bottom. was talking about earlier was, see, I've noticed on some models there's like these louvered doors that can open and close, and it would seem to me that when you don't want heat, those louvered doors would be closed, and it'd keep that fresh air coming through those slots from going through. Of course, now this doesn't have it, so that's why I'm going with that valve. I'm going to try that bypass valve. Now, I could be overthinking that, which I've been prone to do at times. So we'll see. But anyway, it goes on. It goes to the board actually like that. The electric motor actually sticks through a hole that's already in the firewall into the engine compartment. This got that gasket right there. And all right, in this position it's heat. In this position it's heat and defrost. And there's a sticky that can go there, and actually it's a cable. It's supposed to be cable operated. I may or may not do that. I may just reach down there. I more than likely will run it in heat and defrost mode at all times anyway. So, but anyway, now we're going to try to figure out some kind of a spacer. I don't know if that's showing it good enough, but I just got about, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch clearance between the screw tip and the reservoir. I ended up going with some lock washers. I put a lock washer and then some internal, those star type lock washers on there for spacers. So let's see if that doesn't hold it. Alright, here it is, ready to be installed. These two brackets here, that's what bolts it to the firewall. These are your two defrost ports. And that's the heat defrost selector. Actually, it's heat or heat and defrost. So, because it always has heat coming down no matter if you got defrost. So, anyway, there she is. If you can see, but there's a big old red tail sitting out there on the limb, and that's a mockingbird that's flittering around him, trying to run him away from that perch. My guess is he's moved into the. I've noticed him over the past week or so, and I'm noticing a slight decline in the rabbit population. Maybe nature's taking care of my rabbit overpopulation. Here he goes. He's gone. The mockingbird on his tail.